What's your favorite scary movie?
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am once again building something from the horror genre as we get closer and closer to All Hallows Eve. It is my intention this year to try and build some of the most iconic villains from those scary movies that we love so well. Last week I made Jason Voorhees' mask from the Friday the 13th series, and this week I am going to make Ghostface from the Scream franchise. Now, there are very nice simplistic versions of this that you could buy just as easily. My biggest issue is I'm a very large person and store-bought costumes typically don't fit me. You may be in that same boat, or you may be trying to fit something to a child and need to scale stuff down, and you just can't find those items easily in stores. So this is maybe for those of you who want to customize it to better fit you. Another issue that I have with those store-bought costumes is the material's really flimsy and cheap, especially when it comes to like black robes and stuff. They're usually kind of see-through. So I went on Amazon and bought a robe. I have some gloves, I have a balaclava. I don't know that these things are accurate to the movie, but these are what I'm gonna use for my full costume build, and I'll put links to the things that I purchased down in the description below, so if you would like to up the quality of your Scream costume, here is your opportunity. Now, I have templated out the Ghostface mask. I also templated out a knife to go along with the costume. So without further ado, let's get to building. So after looking at a couple of reference images of Ghostface masks, I spent about an hour or so making the template for this one. You can download my templates for free in the description below the video. After making this, I realized I need to make some adjustments so the final version of the pattern will look slightly different than the one you see on screen. I am going to make the suggestion for eye placement closer together, raise the nose slightly, and extend the mouth out just a little bit. You don't really have to worry about these things, but there are adjustments that I felt like needed to be made. Cut out the pattern and trace them onto your materials. I'm using 6mm and 10mm EVA foam for my build. You may have noticed that I combined the mouth and nose area on my right and left side to make one large piece. This is to allow me to not have to worry about seams in those areas. It's not a necessarily vital thing that you do this, I just like to do it when I can. You may also notice that certain parts have a blue highlighted portion on them. This means that the parts need a 45-degree angle cut inward. All of these cuts work better with sharp blades, and sharp blades means be careful not to cut yourself. If you've ever looked at a maker's hand, you'll probably notice little scars all over the backs and the fronts. Usually these are from repetitive cutting of pieces with a hobby knife, and they lose focus for a split second. Those blades slice easy and can cut through your skin pretty deep. To help the foam have less separation around the seams, I'm going to hit the forehead area with a little heat from my heat gun. For HD foam, I like to set my heat gun to around 600 degrees or so. Depending on the foam, you may need to go a little higher or a little lower. This is 3 to 4 times hotter than the average hairdryer will get, which is why hairdryers don't really help you to heat up foam for foam shaping. You can get cheap heat guns for around 20 bucks or so, and it's well worth the investment if you're getting into foam fabrications like this. I heat up the foam till it gets soft, then push it over a round surface like a back porch light cover, or a foam anvil, or a bowl, or vase that's round, or even your knee or hand if you need to. Assembly is fairly simple. I cover my edges in contact cement and let them set up, then they're ready to tack together. You know it's ready when it's no longer wet to the touch. Follow the U-shaped marks along all the edges to help piece stuff together. These are registration marks that'll help you align its corresponding sides. Push firmly on all the seams to make sure that you get a full seal. Now I'm gonna smooth over my seams and knock off any extra contact cement that may be left over on the surfaces. I make a light pass with a sanding drum on my rotary tool, then switch to a stone bit to smooth all those marks out from my sanding drum. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area while sanding foam. You don't want to breathe the foam particles in. I also recommend wearing eye protection just in case the sanding drum or the bit breaks. Inevitably, magically, it shoots right at your face. You've been warned. I thought my spacing was adjusted fine here, but I wasn't taking into account the thickness of the eye overlay. I changed the pattern to show that the eye placement on these overlays should touch in the middle of the mask. I could also change the shape and do a version from some of those classic horror movie spoofs that they had out. Search Ghostface parody movie mask and you'll see what's up. I'm sorry, I had to. To blend my seams a little around the eyes and cover up some of my forehead seams, I'm going to use some clay foam. You wet the surface of the material you're pushing it onto, and also you can add water to the clay foam to make it more pliable. I push it into the grooves and smooth it out with my fingers. Then I set the mask aside and let it sit up for about a day or so. If you put too thick a layer of clay foam on, it may take a couple of days for it to fully cure. 2 coats of Plasti Dip. I wouldn't recommend white as it almost always messes up the surface with bubbles. I did get some mess up on my Plasti Dip spray using that devil mixture of white. I have several cans of it and I guess I need to just throw it away because it always does this to my surfaces for some reason. Now I'm going to hot glue on some sheer black fabric to the inside of this mask. This is another nice thing about making your own mask. Normally the mouth and the nose are just recessed plastic, which kind of makes your entire face enclosed in that cheap plastic and makes it harder to breathe. By using some sheer fabric, it makes it more breathable and pleasant to wear on your face for extended periods of time. Now, most of the Ghostface masks you can buy in the stores have the hood glued to the mask. Since I'm going to wear a hooded robe and a balaclava with mine, I am adding a 1-inch elastic banding on it. I secure the banding between the mask and some thin 2mm foam. The way you figure out the length of your banding is to hold your mask up to your face and see where it lines up. Then you stretch past that point slightly and cut. I thought it would be fun to include a pattern for the Ghostface iconic knife that he uses in the movies. I think that in most of the movies he uses a Buck 120 general knife. I could be wrong. My pattern is slightly larger than the actual knife, but my hands are also larger than normal, which is typically why I oversize weapons and other things because I make it to fit me. So you may need to size it down just a smidge. I am tracing my pattern onto some very dense foam and cutting it all out. Just like with the mask, I contact cement all my parts together. The blade is 2 pieces of 6mm foam, the handle is 4, and the guard is just 1 perpendicular to the other 2 pieces. Once the individual parts are glued together, I do some basic shaping of the parts with various sanding bits on my rotary tool. You could also use a belt sander or a spindle sander, or even just sandpaper if you have the patience, which I don't. With all the parts sanded to their basic shape, I am ready to glue them together quickly with some super glue. I did the sanding with them apart as it would be easier to reach certain parts without accidentally bumping into other pieces. just like the mask, 2 coats of plastic dip, but the black kind, not that trash white bubbling crap. The only real paint that I had to lay down after my base layers of plastic dip is to the knife. I'm going to use some silver rub and buff to give my buck knife that semi-shiny look. A dab of rub and buff, a rough smattering on the blade, and it's all done. Now, it wouldn't be a much props build with at least a little dirtying up of bits. For the mask and the knife, I'm going to leave them clean, but I want to add blood effects. To achieve that always fresh wet blood look, I'm going to mix some red and a little dab of black acrylic paint with some 5-minute epoxy. This mixture makes for a nice looking blood effect that will cover up my imperfections to the build. So glove up, slather on, and let the epoxy do its thing. With that, this build is officially done. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, not too bad. There are things about everything that I build that I could nitpick and think could be better. Definitely there are things about this mask that I could have extended out or made a different shape of. It is very simple. I built these things in maybe a day altogether. Like the knife took me an hour to throw together, so it wasn't too bad. And if you've already got the templates drawn out for you, it's definitely something that will ease the process even more so. You can get a jump start on some of these builds and have them ready for Halloween. If not to wear, you could at least dress a dummy up and have them decorating your house or front porch. Yeah, maybe you'll try and make something like this yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to make an iconic costume that actually fits you in the proper manner. It would be nice. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these, tell them, much props. So I got to put on this balaclava here, big heads. Okay, so I got that on. Got some gloves on, just like so. Don't want people seeing my hands. Got the mask. Pull the hood over. Time to stabby. Prepare yourself. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.